According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way that a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyway, because bees don't care what humans think is impossible.
Bees are dying. They were dying yesterday, they're dying today, and unless we do something, they will continue dying tomorrow.
Over the past 50 years, agriculture relying on insect pollinators has tripled. 80% of this is carried out by bees.
Our world population is increasing. It's surpassing 7 billion at this point. And while that population increases, we need more agricultural crops that rely on bees to pollinate them. Unfortunately, this is a problem because the bee populations are falling due to colony collapse disorder, tracheal mites, and issues with pesticides that are killing them.
I think bees contribute to over 1/3 of all crops in the world.
For instance, the tomato plant. If we lose the bumblebee, we're going to lose the ability to pollinate tomatoes.
Bees contribute over $15 billion to our U.S. economy alone every year for their role as pollinators. $15 billion. And if you look around the globe, that's about $100 billion. So bees are important to our economy, as well as, of course, to our ecology for their role as pollinators. But they pollinate over 100 different fruit and vegetable crops that we rely upon. We need them. We need to care, and we need to push ourselves to know this.
This chart from BeInformed.org starts in the 2006 to 2007 season. This year was also known as the year where colony collapse disorder became a big problem in the United States. This chart also shows that although the numbers are decreasing, our number of average winter loss is greatly surpassing the number of acceptable winter loss per year.
In fact, if we were to line up all of the bee boxes, so the beehives where a colony of bees lives, all of the bees that have been lost since this colony collapse disorder started in about 2006, those boxes would stretch from Bend, Oregon to Madison, Wisconsin.
Bees and other wildlife need to be able to avoid disturbance, and megafarms leave almost nowhere to hide.
Habitat loss to me is a biggie because it makes everything else up here, it magnifies it. It makes all those other issues worse and harder to deal with. Just in North and South Dakota and Nebraska, since 2006, so that's less than a decade, we have lost 1.5 million acres of honeybee forage, of prairie, to fence row corn and soy plantings.
As our use of land is turning more to agriculture and farming, this means unfortunately that native plants that are pollinated by bees and bees rely on for food sources, they are disappearing as well.
We kill all of the weeds in our yard. Those weeds are, in a lot of cases, beneficial plants for honeybees and other pollinators. They need those. They need that variety in their food sources, just like we need the variety in our food sources.
It takes bees visiting approximately 2 million flowers to fill up this jar of honey. 2 million flowers to fill up this one jar of honey.
Parasites and pathogens are another concern. Bees have developed resistance to these threats in their natural habitat, but humans move bee populations all over the world. The native bees have no tolerance to these invasive pests and are affected much more severely.
In Ohio, one of the big things is hive beetles, and those are basically just these black beetles that will get into the hive and eat the larvae and eat the honey, And then there's also another thing called varroa mites, which they actually stick to the backs of bees and they will deform their wings so that they can't fly.
When the varroa mite bites the bee to suck its blood, and it injects viruses into the bees, so then the whole colony is impacted by those viruses.
In some colonies, mites, viruses, and parasites have been to blame, but many are now looking at a class of insecticides called neonicotinoids. This neurotoxin is used to kill off crop-eating insects and pests, but also affects the central nervous system of bees when they consume contaminated nectar. And since nectar is brought back to hives, the entire colony can be affected, leading to mass confusion and disorientation.
Like people putting pesticides on like grass, plants, anything like that. When the bees pollinate those, they bring it back to their hive, and the pesticide will get in the hive and make all the bees really, really sick.
As keepers of this planet, we are responsible for providing solutions for this issue. Part of that is educating yourself and being aware of what you can do and giving support to our government to provide some large-scale solutions.
We're doing a lot of research and study on the varroa mite right now. As you can see back here at Ohio State University, they're doing experiments on varroa mites. They're actually raising them over here, which is bad for our bees on this side of the yard. But they're trying to find out what kind of, what we can do in terms of a chemical application to treat the bees. One of the things that we found is oxalic acid, which is a naturally occurring acid. In most of the hives, we can wood bleach is what it is. We can use oxalic acid to treat the bees, and it has a real high kill rate on the mites, but it doesn't have any impact on the bees at all.
5% of our food is organically farmed. Only 5%. We need a paradigm shift in the way we eat our food.
This is a chart of the 7 most commonly used pesticides in Europe. All of these are used on crops that are mainly pollinated by bees, and all of these will also cause all the bees to get really sick when they're picked up by the bees and brought back to the colonies. The banning of these pesticides will not only create a healthier environment for bees to pollinate in, but it will also create more health benefits for food and allow humans to be healthier as well.
A colleague of mine worked with a farmer in the highly industrialized area in the Midwest of Minnesota. They took 2,000 acres of a seed farm. The farmer's goal was to increase production and save money. That's what all farmers want, to increase production and save money. So they went at it in a bit more of a holistic manner. They monitored before they sprayed pesticides. They reduced tillage to protect their little ground nesting bee families. They used herbicides selectively to avoid damaging the beneficial insects. They burned weeds to reduce chemical usage. And they reduced mowing to create buffer strips, really happy places for those bees and those beneficial bugs to live. Well, the inputs went down, the profits went up. They saved money on pesticides, herbicides, they had free pollinators. This is good for farmers, it's good for bees, and it's good for you and me and our health as well.
The Ohio Department of Transportation is now planting some of the roadsides with pollinator-friendly habitat. They go in there, they have to cut it twice a year instead of every 2 weeks. You have flowers and all kinds of nice, beautiful highway scenery going by. They'll do sunflowers in some areas, wildflowers in another area. Those things make a huge impact for the native species bees, the honeybees that are in the environment, other pollinators that are out there, butterflies, hummingbirds, but yet, also save the state money.
In a world with bees, such as we still have today, this is what a typical plate might look like. Without bees, we'll still have some food. However, it'll be pretty carby, as one might say. We'll be eating a lot of carbs. We won't have as many colors. The fruits and vegetables, even the meats that much of our cattle eat, the fruits and vegetables that are pollinated by bees, that's gone too.
It's really awesome to live at this time in this place where we get to be part of the solution. We get to get that pendulum swinging back in the right direction.
A simple DIY project you can do at home is make a mason bee house. Mason bees are solitary, so they like their own little individual place to go in. You can use a recycled can, a recycled pop tab, some scrap wood, and these are just rolled up pieces of paper and hollow twigs. So you can do this at home, hang it up in your yard, and give those bees a place to live.
Plant the proper plants. Put things out that are friendly to not only honeybees, but other native species bees, other types of pollinators, butterflies, bumblebees, those types of things. That's one of the best things they can do.
Definitely planting flowers is great. Even if you just plant a couple, like any flowers helps. Any vegetables, just stuff like that.
Plant flowers with your kids, with your partner, with your roommates. Plant flowers. Everybody in this room has access to some dirt and some seeds at some levels. Plant flowers on ranches. Plant flowers on farms. Plant flowers in your front yard, in your backyard, along fence rows, in your garden, in a window box, in a planter on your front porch. Plant flowers.
Staying away from pesticides and using organic soil, organic plants, stuff like that.
Don't put chemicals on your yard. Let the dandelions grow. Make some of the best honey there ever was. You know, let that stuff come up in the yard. Don't spend the money and waste your energy on trying to pull weeds every time you turn around. Put it back let it go back into the soil. Let the weeds grow a little bit. Just keep it cut flat and the dandelions will still grow. And you can do little things like that have a dramatic impact on what we do.
Please love your bees, at least just a little bit. Appreciate them for what they do for you.
When I say savor, you say bees, savor.
Bees. Bees. Bees.
Bees.
Bees.
Bees.
Bees.
Bees.
The bees went up to heaven because we can't save them.
Do we need to save the bees?
Yes.
Why?
Because they died and we need to help them.
Bees. We all know them. But these bees, they got a problem. They got a problem, yeah? The humble bumblebees are dying in the hives because they've been licking them funky pesticides. They ain't been making no honey for your honey. We have to hurry, pollination is down, and that's a worry.